All right. Um. So computer was slowing down, so I decided to do a little reset. I'm on 8049. That's going to be Esther chapter 7 to 10 and Job 1 through 5. So let's get it. Esther 7. All right, Esther 7. So the king and Haman came into Queen Esther's banquet. Actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to pop some music. I need to get my earphones on. It just makes it easier when I don't hear my voice. It's like hearing an echo when, if you've ever done a long distance phone call back on like an old payphone, it would take sometimes like 5 or 10 seconds before the person hears it, and then it would take another 5 to 10 seconds after they responded for you to hear them, and so there was that time lag, and so yeah, it's just weird not really having much of that anymore. Like there's still a little bit, but but yeah, when I'm talking and uh, I'm really focused. I'm listening to myself, and it starts to throw me off because it's like I'm hearing an echo. 'Cause, I mean, that is what I'm hearing, but like I'm trying to focus on what I'm seeing with the words, and then trying to turn that into like feelings, emotions, thoughts, imaginative like things. So all right, let's turn this up a little bit. I'm gonna do Dragon Age Inquisition main menu 1 hour by a YouTube channel called Gaming Ambience. All right, Esther 7. Yeah, this way, I don't hear myself as much, and it makes it easier to yell. I like yelling when doing this because it really like it almost like is a cup of coffee. It's exciting. So the king and Haman came in to Queen Esther's banquet. The king said to Esther again on the second day during the banquet of wine, "What is your petition, Queen Esther? It will be granted to you. And what is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom it will be done." Queen Esther answered, "If I have found favor with you, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be granted as my petition, and my people as my request, for we have been sold, I and my people, to be annihilated, killed, and destroyed. But if we had simply been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept silent. But the distress is not proper, for it will be damaging to the king." King Ahasuerus then said to Queen Esther, "Who is this, and where is the man who has dared to do such a thing?" Esther said, "The adversary and enemy is this evil Haman." Haman became terrified because of the king and the queen. The king rose up in a rage from the banquet of wine and went into the palace garden. But Haman stood up to plead with King Esther for his life, for he realized that the king was determined to punish him. The king returned from the palace garden to the house of the wine banquet and saw that Haman had thrown himself on the couch where Esther was. The queen exclaimed, "Is he also going to rape the queen in my own house?" As soon as the words left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Harbona, one of the king's court officials, now said, "Haman also prepared a steak for Mordecai, whose report saved the king. It is standing at Haman's house, 50 cubits high." At that the king said, "Hang him on it." So they hanged Haman on the stake that he had prepared for Mordecai, and the king's rage subsided. Nice. Esther 8. On that day, King Ahasuerus gave the house of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther, and Mordecai came in before the king because Esther had revealed how he was related to her. Then the king removed the signet ring, and he had taken away from Haman and gave it to Mordecai, and Esther put Mordecai in charge of the house of Haman. Moreover, Esther spoke again to the king. She fell down at his feet and wept and pleaded with him to undo the harm done by Haman the Agagite and his scheme against the Jews. The king held the golden scepter out to Esther, at which Esther rose and stood before the king. She said, "If it pleases the king, if I have his favor, and if it seems proper to the king, and I am pleasing in his eyes, let an order be written to annul the documents of that schemer Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews in all the king's provinces. For how can I bear to look up the disaster that will come upon my people, and how can I bear to see the destruction of my relatives?" So King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and to Mordecai the Jew, "Look, I have given to the house of Haman to Esther, and have had him hanged on the stake because of his plot to attack the Jews. You may now write in the king's name whatever you see fit in behalf of the Jews, and seal it with the king's signet ring, for a decree that is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet ring cannot be revoked." So the secretaries of the king were summoned at that time in the third month, that is, the month of Sivan, on the 23rd day, and they wrote all that Mordecai commanded to the Jews, as well as to the satraps, the governors, and the princes of the provinces from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces, to each province in its own script, and to each people its own language, and to the Jews in their own script and language. He wrote it in the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed it with the king's signet ring, and sent written documents by the hands of the couriers on horses. They rode on swift post horses, bred for royal service. In these documents, the king granted permission to the Jews in all the different cities to gather together and defend their lives, and to annihilate, kill, and destroy any forces of any people or province that might attack them, including women and children, and to seize their possessions. This was to occur on the same day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus on the 13th day of the 12th month, that is, the month of Adar. The text of the document was to be issued as law throughout all the provinces. It was to be proclaimed to all the peoples, so that the Jews would be ready on that day to take vengeance on their enemies. The couriers riding the post horses, used in the royal service, went out urgently and speedily at the king's order. The law was also issued in Shushan, the citadel. Now Mordecai left the king's presence in royal apparel of blue and white, wearing a great golden crown and a fine fabric cloak of purple wool. And the city of Shushan shouted for joy, for the Jews there was relief and rejoicing, the exultation and honor. And in all the provinces and all the cities, wherever the decree of the king and his law reached, the Jews were rejoicing and exulting, holding banquets and celebrations. Many of the peoples of the land were declaring themselves Jews, for the dread of the Jews had fallen upon them. On the 13th day of the 12th month, that is, the month of Adar, when the king's word and his laws were to be carried out, on the day when the enemies of the Jews hoped to overpower them, the opposite happened, and the Jews defeated those who hated them. The Jews gathered together in their cities and all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to lay hands on those seeking to harm them, and not a man could stand against them, for the dread of them had fallen upon the peoples. And all the princes of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and those handling the business of the king were supporting the Jews, for they were in fear of Mordecai. Mordecai had become powerful in the king's house, and his fame was spreading throughout all the provinces, because Mordecai was steadily growing more powerful. The Jews struck down all their enemies with the sword, killing and destroying them. They did whatever they wanted to those hating them. In Shushan, the citadel, the Jews, and destroyed the 500 men. Also they killed Parshandatha, Delphon, Aspatha, Paratha, Adalia, Aridatha, Parmasha, Arisai, Aradai, and Vizatha. The 10 sons of Haman, the sons of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. But after they killed him, they did not seize any plunder. On that day, the number of those killed in Shushan, the citadel, was reported to the king. The king said to Queen Esther, "In Shushan, the citadel, the Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men and the 10 sons of Haman. What then have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? What is your petition now? It will be granted you. And what is your further request? It will be done." Esther replied, "If it pleases the king, let the Jews who are in Shushan be permitted to act tomorrow, also according to today's law, and let the 10 sons of Haman be hanged on the stake." So the king gave orders for that to be done. A law was issued in Shushan, and the 10 sons of Haman were hanged. The Jews in Shushan gathered together again on the 14th day of the month of Adar and killed 300 men in Shushan, but they did not seize any plunder. The rest of the Jews in the provinces of the king also gathered together and defended their lives. They got rid of their enemies, killing 75,000 of those who hated them, but they did not seize any plunder. That was on the 13th day of the month of Adar, and they rested on the 14th day, and made it a day of feasting and of rejoicing. The Jews in Shushan gathered together in the 13th day, and on the 14th day, and they rested on the 15th day, and made it a day of feasting and rejoicing. That is why the rural Jews inhabiting the cities of the outlying districts made the 14th day of the month of Adar a day of rejoicing and feasting, a day of celebration, and a time to send portions of food to one another. Mordecai recorded these events and sent official letters to all the Jews in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far. He instructed them to observe the 14th day of the month of Adar, as well as the 15th day each and every year, because on those days the Jews rested from their enemies, and in that month their grief was changed to rejoicing, and their mourning to a day of celebrations. They were to observe them as days of feasting and rejoicing, and as a time to send portions of food to one another and gifts to the poor. And the Jews agreed to continue the celebration that they had started and to do what Mordecai wrote to them. For Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all Jews, had schemed against the Jews to destroy them, and he had cast pur, that is, the lot, to throw them into a panic and to destroy them. But when Esther came in before the king, he gave orders in writing, "Let his evil scheme against the Jews come back on his own head." And they hanged him and his sons on the stake. That is why they called these days Purim, after the name of the Pur. Therefore, because of all that was written in this letter, and what they saw concerning this matter, and what had come upon them, the Jews obligated themselves and their descendants and all those joining them to celebrate these 2 days without fail and to carry out what was written concerning them to the appointed time each and every year. These days were to be remembered and observed in every generation, by each family, each province, and each city. And these days of Purim should not cease among the Jews, and their commemoration should not come to end among their descendants. Then Queen Esther, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai, the Jew, wrote with full authority to confirm a second letter about Purim. He sent officials letters to all the Jews in the 127 provinces, the realm of Ahasuerus, in the words of peace and truth, to confirm the observance in the days of Purim at their appointed times, just as Mordecai the Jew and Queen Esther had instructed them to do, and just as they had obligated themselves and their descendants to carry out, including the fasting and supplication. And the command of Esther confirmed these matters concerning Purim, and it was recorded in a book. Okay, I just made a decision on something. I need to try this. I know I say that about a lot of things, but this one actually makes a lot more sense to me. Oops, wrong one. Google Keep. Okay. Okay. So, So this is what I think of, and there's so let's see, brightness, uh, warmth, light, productivity, physical, and then sundown, darkness, stillness, hope, fear, sneakiness, slow down, which is what it is. It's a change in energy. So when sun's up, the energy is at its highest. When sun's down, energy is at its lowest. But I was thinking, because this is how I've been thinking. I've been thinking that my day should not start in the morning. My day should start, or maybe my day should start like at midnight. So midnight would be a good wake up time. Shower. That way it's kind of like passing through like a barrier, passing through the door. And then readings until 6 a.m. Instacart till 12 to 2, midday, plus lunch, 12 to 2. And then let's see how I'm going to do this. So 6 o'clock, if I leave at 6, means dialysis has to start at 9. So I could say, I shower, dinner, and then dialysis by 9:30. And I could always just eat dinner while on the dialysis. I can throw the dishes or clean the dishes after in the morning when I wake up. But that means I'm insured. I'm up by 6. So then breakfast. So what does that look like? 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12. So this day 1, day 2. Okay. So wakey wakey. Reading. Reading breakfast workout between 1 and 6. And then so this will give me some time to slow down. I don't need to be recording all the time. I keep forgetting that. Until I'm financially stable, Instacart needs to be my most important thing. So 7 to 2. It's a good amount of time. That's probably like 3 or 4 orders. I would expect. That's my expectation. And then somewhere in this time, midday plus lunch. So it's sometime between 12 and 2. It'll be midday plus lunch. That'll be my break. And then this will be oh, I like that. That actually makes a pattern. I really, really like that. That's crazy. Look at that. The way I set that up. That's cool. I like that. Okay. Excuse me. And then, so no electronics and try to sleep. If I could work the full What is this? So this will be, oh, and then extra sleep. So that way I'm getting plenty of sleep. But I need to get off the schedule where I'm sleeping 8 hours at a time. I don't need that. So the hard part, I think what's happening is I'm getting anxiety because I'm trying to shift something that's I've been doing my whole life. And I know I can do it. I'm just comfortable doing what I do now. So tonight will be an attempt. So after I'm done reading this one, I'll go ahead and 10 o'clock. So here, after I'm done making this next reading, oh, I don't know if I could do it tonight. I'm really in the mode right now. So primary, let's see. Trying to think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 hours minus dialysis minus lunch minus quick nap. And then 8 hours rookie work. So that's the actual. I need to stop limiting myself. So I need to try to get off of watching politics on YouTube. I spend too much time doing that because it's just stupid. So, all right. All right. Can I do this? Yes, I can. Instead of saying I will try to do this, I will do this. So I'll go ahead and start. Day one starts at midnight. So I'll go ahead and just keep reading until then. And if I have to eat breakfast and work out, I think 3 o'clock is when my dialysis is going to kick me off. So let's see what I can do. Let's set this as my baseline. And then for this journal, I'll only write about how I failed and not how I succeeded. So that way I can keep my mind on it and work on it. Okay. Okay, that's it for that. Let's go ahead and put that back down. Okay. All right. Esther 10. King Ahasuerus imposed forced labor on the land and the islands of the sea, and all his powerful and mighty accomplishments, as well as the detailed account of Mordecai's greatness, to which the king exalted him. Are they not written in the book of the history of the times of the kings of Media and Persia? For Mordecai the Jew was second only to King Ahasuerus. He was great among the Jews and respected by the multitude of his brothers, working for the good of his people and advocating the welfare of all their descendants. All right, and of Esther. That was a baby one. All right, beginning of Job. Job 1 through 5. Job 1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. He was an upright man of integrity. He feared God and shunned what was bad. 7 sons and 3 daughters were born to him. His livestock amounted to 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 1,000 cattle, and 7,000 donkeys, along with a very large number of servants, so that he became the greatest of all the people of the East. Each of his sons would hold a banquet at his house on his own set day. They would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. After a series of banquet days was complete, Job would send for them in order to sanctify them, and he would get up early in the morning and offer up burnt sacrifices for each of them. For Job said, "Maybe my sons have sinned and have cursed God in their heart." That is what Job would always do. Now the day came when the sons of the true God entered to take their station before Jehovah, and Satan also entered among them. Then Jehovah said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered Jehovah, "From roving about on the earth and from walking about in it." And Jehovah said to Satan, "Have you taken note of my servant Job? There is no one like him on the earth. He is an upright man of integrity, fearing God and shunning what is bad." At that Satan answered Jehovah, "Is it not for nothing that Job had feared God?" Have you not put up a protective hedge around him and his house and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his livestock is spread out in the land. But for a change, stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to the very face. Then Jehovah said to Satan, "Look, everything that he has is in your hand. Only do not lay your hand on the man himself." So Satan went out from the presence of Jehovah. Now on the day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The cattle were plowing and the donkeys were grazing beside them, when the Sabaeans attacked and took them, and they killed the servants with the sword. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another one came and said, "Fire from God fell from the heavens and blazed among the sheep and the servants, and consumed them. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another one came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 bands and made a raid on the camels and took them, and they killed the servants with the sword. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, yet another one came and said, "Your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house." Suddenly, a great wind came from the wilderness, and it struck the four corners of the house, so that it fell on the young people, and they were killed. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. At that, Job got up and ripped apart his garment and cut the hair off his head. Then he fell to the ground and bowed down and said, "Naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked I will return. Jehovah has given, and Jehovah has taken away. Let the name of Jehovah continue to be praised." In all this, Jehovah did not sin or accuse God of doing anything wrong. Job 2. Afterward, the day came when the sons of the true God entered to take their station before Jehovah, and Satan also entered among them to take his station before Jehovah. Then Jehovah said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered Jehovah, "From roving about on the earth and from walking about in it." And Jehovah said to Satan, "Have you taken note of my servant Job? There is no one like him on the earth. He is an upright man of integrity, fearing God and shunning what is bad. He is still holding firmly to his integrity, even though you try to incite me against him, to destroy him for no reason." But Satan answered Jehovah, "Skin for skin. A man will give everything that he has for his life. But for a change, stretch out your hand and strike his bone and flesh, and he will surely curse you to your very face." Then Jehovah said to Satan, "Look, he is in your hand. Only do not take his life." So Satan went out from his presence of Jehovah and struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And Job took a piece of broken pottery to scrape himself, and he was sitting among the ashes. Finally, his wife said to him, "Are you still holding firmly to your integrity? Curse God and die." But he said to her, "You are talking like one of the senseless women. Should we accept only what is good from the true God and not accept also what is bad in all of this?" Job did not sin with his lips. Three companions of Job heard about all the calamities that had come upon him, and each came from his own place: Eliphaz, the Temanite, Bildad, the Shuhite, and Zophar, the Naamathite. So they agreed to meet together to go and sympathize with Job and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. They began to weep loudly and to rip their garments apart, and they threw dust into the air onto their heads. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him, for they saw that his pain was very great. It was said after that, Job began to speak and to curse the day of his birth. Job said, "Let the day perish on which I was born. Also the night when someone said, 'A man has been conceived.' Let that day be darkness. Let God above show no concern for it. Let no light shine upon it. Let the deepest darkness reclaim it. Let a rain cloud settle over it, and whatever darkens the day terrify it. That night let the gloom seize it. Let it not rejoice among the days of a year, and let it not enter among the number of the months. Indeed, let that night become barren. Let no joyful cry be heard in it. Let those who curse the day put a curse on it, and those who are able to awaken Leviathan. Let the stars of its twilight go dark. Let it wait in vain for daylight, and let it not see the rays of dawn. For it did not close the doors of my mother's womb, nor did it hide trouble from my eyes. Why did I not die at birth? Why did I not perish when I came from the womb? Why were there knees to receive me, and breasts to nurse me? For now I would be lying down undisturbed. I would be sleeping and at rest, with kings of the earth and their advisers, who built for themselves places that are now in ruins, or with princes who possessed gold, whose houses were filled with silver. Or why was I not like a hidden miscarriage, like children who have never seen the light? There even the wicked have ceased from agitation. There the weary are at rest. There the prisoners are at ease together. They do not hear the voice of the one forcing them to work. Small and great are the same there, and the slave is set free from his master. Why does he give light to one who is suffering, and life to those in bitter distress? Why do they long for death, but it has not come? They dig for it more than for hidden treasures. Those who are rejoicing greatly, who are happy when they find the grave. Why does he give light to a man who has lost his way, whom God has hedged in? For in place of my food comes my sighing, and my groaning pours out like water. For what I have dreaded has come upon me, and what I have feared has befallen me. I have had no peace, no quiet, no rest, but trouble keeps coming. Job 4. Eliphaz the Temanite then said in reply, if someone tries to speak to you, will you become impatient? For who can hold back from speaking? True, you have corrected many, and you used to strengthen the weak hands. To strengthen the weak hands. Your word would raise up anyone stumbling, and you would strengthen those whose knees were buckling. But now it has happened to you, and you are overwhelmed. It touches you, and you are dismayed. Does your reverence for God not give you confidence? Does your way of integrity not give you hope? Remember, please, what innocent person has ever perished? What have the upright have ever when have the upright ever been destroyed? What have I seen? And those who plow what is harmful, and those who sow trouble will reap the same. By the breath of God they perish, and through a blast of his anger they come to an end. A lion roars, and a young lion growls, but even the teeth of strong lions are broken. A lion perishes for lack of prey, and the cubs of a lion are scattered. Now a word has brought to me in secret, and a whisper of it reached my ear. In troubling thoughts during visions of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, a terrible trembling came upon me, filling all my bones with dread. A spirit passed over my face. The hair of my flesh bristled. It then stood still, but I did not recognize its appearance. A form was in front of my eyes. There was a calm, and then I heard a voice. What can a mortal man be more righteous than God? Can a man be cleaner than his own Maker? Look, he has no faith in his servants, and he finds fault with his angels. How much more so with those dwelling in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, who are crushed as easily as a moth. They are completely crushed from morning to evening. They perish forever, and no one takes notice. Are they not like a tent whose cord is pulled out? They die without wisdom. Call, please. Is there anyone answering you? To which of the holy ones will you turn? For resentment will kill the foolish one, and envy will put to the simple-minded to death. I have seen the foolish one taking root, but suddenly his dwelling place is cursed, his sons are far from safety, and they are crushed at the city gate, with no one to save them. The hungry one eats what he harvests, taking it even from among the thorns, and their possessions are ensnared. For harmful things do not sprout from the dust, and trouble does not spring from the ground. For man is born for trouble, as surely as sparks fly upward. But I would appeal to God, and to God I would submit my case. To the one doing great and unsearchable things, wonderful things without number. He gives rain to the earth, and sends waters upon the fields. He raises the lowly up high, and he raises up the dejected one to salvation. He frustrates the schemes of the crafty, so that the work of their hands does not succeed. He catches the wise in their own cunning, so that the plans of the shrewd are thwarted. They meet with darkness during the day, and they grope about at midday as if it were night. He saved from the sword of their mouth, saving the poor from the hand of the strong, so that there is hope for the lowly, but the mouth of the unrighteousness is shut. Look, happy is the man whom God reproves. So do not reject the discipline of the Almighty, for he causes pain, but binds up the wound. He breaks apart, but heals with his own hands. He will save you from 6 calamities. Even the 7th will not harm you. During famine, he will redeem you from death, and from the power of a sword during war. You will be protected from the lash of the tongue, and you will not fear devastation when it comes. You will laugh at destruction and hunger, and you will not fear the wild beasts of the earth. For the stones of the field will not harm you, and the wild beasts of the fields will be at peace with you. You will know that your tent is secure, and nothing will be missing when you inspect your pasture. You will enjoy many children, and your descendants will be as plentiful as the vegetation of the earth. You will still be strong when you go to the grave, like sheaves of grain gathered in their season. Look, we have investigated this, and it is so. Listen and accept it. Oh, and that's the end of AV 49.